What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Gary B. Jr. here, and we are in the lab for Free Show. If you have not tuned in before, we are in episode 3. We're using beta version 3 of 1.5.6, and we are going to be talking all about how to use Free Show in unique ways so that we can make the most of it inside of our church services and outside of our church services. So, in the lab is where we do some experimenting, we do some testing out, some ideas, we bounce around thoughts and try out new things and things like that. So, if that's something that interests you, make sure to check it out. But we are in the lab, and I am Gary B. Jr. Can't wait to talk to you guys today about some things. My goal today is going to be to focus on how to level up your live streams. All right. So a lot of people do live streaming these days. I'm live streaming right now. But the idea to me is how do you make the most of it using Free Show in a way that is consistent with what you need to accomplish? And to me, that means having seamless layouts and things like that. So we're going to play around with some ideas from Canva, mix those in with OBS, and mix those in with Free Show. So if you're going to follow along, those are the 3 tools I would recommend you need. Make sure you download Free Show. Make sure you have OBS on your computer, and then you can have Canva or Photoshop or something along those lines, whatever it is you think is going to work best for your needs. But that's what I would recommend. And so I was thinking about what does it look like use Free Show and have it be like an overlay for a live stream. Okay. And so um, I always think about it for scoreboards and things like that, which is really cool to where you can have like a live scoreboard and change it with variables and things like that, which are really cool. So today we're going to play a little bit with that. We're going to play around with some variables. We're going to set it all up in Free Show and just test it out to see how it works. I've already made some templates in Canva for me to play with and give you an idea of how you can manage these yourself. Like I said, I have not tested it out because we're in the lab together. So I'm going to kind of prepare it and then we'll see if it works. So let's see what we've got here. I've got a First thing I would recommend you do is to go into your Free Show. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen. So I recommend you go into Free Show and go into your settings. And we're going to just create a whole new profile because a lot of us are using this for our church or ministry, and that's cool. But I'm going to go down here to the profiles and settings, and I'm going to hit the plus sign here. And I'm going to make it to where I'm going to kind of clear out everything and give myself like a blank slate as best I can at least. Let's see here. So I got a lot of variables in here, actions and stuff like that. So I'm going to make those um let's see. I won't even see. I can't even make those be hidden. I thought I could make those not be seen cuz I would love for them to not be seen. Let's see here. Shows. We can go into our shows and we can make all this invisible: events, presentations, scriptures, songs, chums, Free Show Friday, game shows, meetings, planning center. Yep, we don't need any of that to be seen. These are just a bunch of different shows. Let's see here. For overlays, I don't need any of these overlays. Let's see here. Visuals, we can keep those on. I think those are there by default. Free Show Friday topics, important messages, logos, lower thirds, timers, transitions, because we can make all of our own for that. Okay. Um, Templates. Let's see here. We can hit this drop down here. You can do the same thing to where you can make those be visible or not visible. Um, I don't think I'm going to need any of my templates either. Like I said, this is going to be a stripped down, kind of like I guess I'll keep the scriptures open just in case we need that. We'll make that visible and editable. Presentations, we'll keep those there. And maybe, actually, we'll do this lower thirds. Excuse me. Mm, excuse me. It's a little chilly here in Atlanta. All right. So make this one here, lower thirds there. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to, let me turn this up just a bit. Oh, too much. No, we'll go down. I don't mind it like that. All right. But what I'm trying to do is make it to where everything is pretty clean and simple. All right. Now, like I said, with the actions and stuff like that, I can't make those go away. Variables, I can't make those go away. That would be pretty cool if we could. Let's see here. So functions, it just gives you that option. And then stage, settings, all that's fine. Templates, I've already edited some of that. Projects. Okay, so projects, we really don't need a lot of those either. Let's see here. We don't need to see this. We'll keep podcast open because I'll be doing this kind of like a podcast, and we'll make that be invisible. Okay. And so I think we're good. And I'm gonna call this one. You can just right click down here, you can rename it. And we're gonna call this one live stream lab. All right, so I've got that. And then at the very top, you can set it as your active layout. All right, so I can go there. When I go back to my show, you can see here, you'll have kind of a cleaned up shows list. It still shows a bunch of shows there. Like I said, I got a bunch of presentations, overlays. We got our visuals there that were there by kind of by default. I guess I kept that active. I didn't necessarily need to. Templates, I got some, let's see here, some lower thirds. Got that there. And then for the functions, we kept all those there. So those are all there. All right. And so those who are just joining, welcome. Let me know where you're from. We're doing a in the lab where we're talking about how to use FreeShow like for an overlay for a like for a live stream that is maybe like a podcast or even like a game, like you're using FreeShow in business or something along those lines. But I've got some ideas, so we're just gonna play around with it. Okay, so we got that in place, and now we're going to set up OBS. Now, this is where things get interesting because in OBS, you can do quite a bit of other things as well. So let me see here. Let me get my OBS open. Let me do studio mode in OBS. And yeah, this is where it gets interesting because in OBS, you can make like an actual, what do they call it? Like a setting, not a setting, but you can make a scene collection. That's what it is. All right. All right. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened. It just kind of blanked. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened. It just kind of blanked out on me when I pulled it up. Let me try pulling it up again. I'm going to put it back in studio mode and bring it here. Wow. Okay, here we go. I'm like, I can't see it. All right, there we go. All right, so you guys can see that. And what we're going to do is we're going to just make like a new scene. And in this new scene, I want to make it be blank. I'm gonna call it we'll call it podcast for now. Okay. So I got this new podcast scene completely blank. There's a reason for that. So let's go into Canva. And this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to show you guys some layouts that I made in Canva. All right. So in this program, we've got all kinds of things you can do. And what I did is I just kind of went in and found some generic overlays and stuff like that. And so this one, I think is just called a lower thirds scoreboard or something like that. So you can do all kinds of different things here. You can bring in different elements. And this was one I just customized. It was like a score overlay or something like that. And so you can do a search for anything over here under elements. And let's see what happens here. That one didn't show up. Let's see. Let me do I say live stream overlay, you'll see these kind of things, which are pretty cool. And I've got some of those actually on. So something like this or like that, you can use. I found this background or layout or whatever, and I just called it in the lab. I just changed the words, and then I changed this gradient. Okay, we're going to use that. And then I made this one here. So this is kind of a backdrop, and then this is the top layer of it. So it's got a frame here and a frame here. You can't see it because I knocked them out, and then we got this as well. So we're going to put all this stuff together, but the first thing I got to do is I've got to download this. So I'm going to go to download, and I'm going to make them PNG because I do want to have the transparent background on most of that stuff. So I'm going to select transparent background, all the pages, and then we'll say download. And that's working to be downloaded. And I'm going to come back to me. All right. So the idea here is that you get all the elements that you need, and we're going to layer them in OBS and FreeShow. All right. So we're going to use OBS and FreeShow in this layout to make this work. So it'll be fun. That's the goal, to have some fun with it. All right. So they're done downloading. Let me go ahead and pull this in. Let's see here. What I'll do is, now I'm not sure. When I go to studio mode, it does that every time. It just kind of flakes out. Okay. So there's that. All right. So that's what it should be. Shout out. We got our man Serge Lenora 5971. Welcome, welcome, my friend. Can I ask why Streamlabs OBS does not show the live output of FreeShow while support the NDI? You know, I've never used Streamlabs OBS, but OBS does support, when you say live output of FreeShow. Tell me what you mean by the live output. I'm guessing you just mean the output, right? Just the general output. And so from my experience, it does support the output of, let's see, of FreeShow. And so for me, when I go here, for example, I've got that showing that is an output from directly from FreeShow, right? And I just got it as if I share my screen, let's see here, this particular FreeShow primary is just FreeShow primary. So if I right click on that, you'll see the properties are FreeShow NDI, okay? And it's my NDI primary. That's all I've got from FreeShow right now. And so when you say live, let me know what you mean by the live output. That's what I would consider live output. I call it my primary. And so if I go back to FreeShow, you'll see here, I've got that active. And then my stage, I don't even have NDI on, I don't think. Let me go to my outputs here. It's on, but yeah, NDI is disabled. So the only output I've got from FreeShow right now is my actual stage. And that's what that's doing. All right. So there's that. But I've got those elements I just downloaded. So let me pull those in real quick. And you guys are getting you guys are getting to see me do this live. So bear with me. I'm gonna say in the lab. I'm gonna put this stuff into my pictures folder, and in FreeShow, we'll go back to my show here, and let's go to media. And I think I got a pictures. Yep. And it's called in the lab. All right. So here's all those elements that we did. Oh, it knocked out that whole background. Oh boy. Not what I expected there. Okay. So this element here should be fully purple. That's the one thing. So let me go back and get that one where it's fully purple in the background. And that one would be this. So let me check the other ones as well. And yeah, that one came in fine. The background is not completely gone there. And then that was there. Okay, perfect. Okay. So let's go back in here, and I want to have this background there. So this is page 3. I'm going to go up to share and just download, and I'm not going to do transparent, but I'm still making a PNG. That's fine. And we'll say download. All right, now it's downloading, but it says it's doing this one, but I think that's just because it's the first one on the list, but we'll see. All right, let's see here. Once it's done, let's see what we got. Yeah, download everything. That's cool though. I'm gonna put that one in here. I'm gonna say 3 with background. All right. And I'm just dragging it into my In the Lab folder. All right, so now when we go here, so I just added something in this folder. All I gotta do is go back out and then come back into it and look for In the Lab, and you'll see that it's there. All right, so if you run into that, you can definitely fix it. And so now basically we got some basic stuff going on here. I've got this FreeShow layout piece. So I can select this, and now in FreeShow, if I were to go to OBS, you'll see I've got that there, okay? Just a piece from FreeShow. Now it has a black background, okay? So we don't want that. So what we're gonna do with this is I'm gonna right click on my outputs. I'm gonna go to edit, and we're gonna say transparent. Now look at what happens back there. That goes completely transparent. And then when I come back to OBS, it still looks black. That's fine. But now I can put a plus sign here, and I'm going to add in a video capture device, and we're going to add in my ATEM, which is the video source I'm using right now. And you'll see it there. And then I'm going to make this fill the screen completely, which I don't typically do. Boom. And we'll pull that down. Bam. And it still needs to be a little bit bigger. I just want to fill the entire screen. Okay, so I'm looking at the edges there. Completely filled in on that side, completely filled in on that side. Now this is all on top of everything. So I don't want it on top. I want it at the bottom of FreeShow. So I want to bring it down, and now you'll see something like that. So if I go to primary, you'll see that lower thirds there. All right, so this is why I said we have to start using OBS in the midst of this, because I wanted to do it and bring it in together, to let OBS do some lifting and let FreeShow do some lifting or some work. And so right now OBS is supporting my video and FreeShow is supporting the overlay. All right, so we got this overlay, but it's completely empty. It just says FreeShow, and it's got a picture of my big head there, and then it's got let's see here. It's got a picture of my head there, and it's got the 2 boxes there. All right. And so what I did is I dragged my ATEM below the FreeShow feed. So I got primary FreeShow, and then I got my ATEM. In FreeShow, I went to my output and I made it transparent. So I right clicked on this and I hit edit style. And when I got here, this was off. All right. So it looked like that. And so that would look like this. It would just be a black screen. What I wanted to do was I wanted to make it to where I can see through it and just have this part, this PNG, be at the bottom. So I can select that. And now you'll see here, we've got that. Okay. And so this is something that's really cool idea. What I would do is, instead of just having that be there as an overlay, I would turn that into a template. Okay. And so now we're going to make a new template. I'm going to call this live stream. And we're going to add a new template down here. And we're going to call this one In the Lab. Down there. All right. Now we can add in that same image. All right. So I can go to media, and it says choose your media on the right. So I can go up there, and I'm going to go to pictures where it was, and it was In the Lab, and it was this one. And so I can open it. It looks like that. And I'm going to bring this to where it fills the entire screen. So it'll be there the whole time. Boom. All right. And I know that the aspect ratios and all that stuff are the right way. So if I select out, I want to bring it all the way down so it's touching. It seems like it's not. Okay, there we go. Okay, I guess it is doing what it's supposed to do, I think. All right. And it says fit to contain. Let's say cover. Yeah, I think that'll do it there, to cover. Okay. All right. It looks kind of blurry, but we're going to see what it does. We're going to see what it does. So I'm going to say for my show, let's see what it looks like if I were to clear the background out. And if I pick that, there's no text on it yet. And so we'll do a new show. We're going to call this live streams. And we'll say new show. And we're going to call this one In the Lab Test. And we'll say empty show. We'll go back to my template. We'll say new slide, make it blank, and I'm just going to pick that. All right. Now, for some reason, to me, it looks kind of blurry, but let's see. We go here. Did it get blurry? No, it's not blurry. Okay, it looks good. It looks good. All right, and that's actually a slide. All right, that's what's interesting about it. It's actually a slide over the top, but it still shows up here, which is perfectly fine. That's exactly what I want it to look like, okay? Now, what I can do, you know what? I might be able to make this work another way, you guys. We'll see. We'll see. All right, but I'm gonna edit some more of this template, all right? So right now, let's do edit. And we've got this space here, and we got this space here. I want to be able to type text in that space. And so I need to make some variables. So I'm gonna go to my functions, and we got variables down here. I can select those under functions, and we got a bunch of different variables, but I'm gonna do a new variable, and I'm gonna call this one, we'll call this just text. And we're gonna do in the lab, upper, because it had two boxes. All right, so it popped that one in. Let's see here, where'd it go? There's in the lab upper, and then we're going to do another one, just text. We're going to do in the lab lower. We enter, and it shows up there. All right, so let's see how we're looking here. Surgery Lenora, let me know what you're thinking about. Let me know what you're thinking about. All right. So I got my two variables there. Perfect. Now I need to put those variables in my template. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to go to items. We can make this go down. We don't need that anymore. And I'm going to add in a text box. And so basically we're just adding our variable layers. So I like FreeShow for text more than I like OBS. All right. So OBS does allow you to do text, but it is not fun or pretty. FreeShow is both. It's fun and pretty. All right. So I've just made a text box here, and I'm going to duplicate that text box by right clicking on it, and it will say duplicate. All right. And I'm going to just drag it down here to fit in that space. And we're going to customize this one. I want it to be dark blue, no shadow, and I want it to be a certain size. We'll say shrink to fit. So it goes in there. And then I want it to be a dynamic value. So I can right click in here, delete I'm going to delete this text first. I don't know what I just clicked on the wrong thing. So if you ever click on the wrong box, so I selected my background. I can go over here to items, and it'll show you all your text boxes. So I'm gonna select that one, and I want to delete that text in there, but I want to add some other text. So I can right click, and I can select a dynamic value. And this is where your dynamic values that you've already made. So you can put in your show name as a dynamic value, the group name, the year, the date, whatever you want to. And I'm gonna put in my in the lab upper and lower, and I'm just looking for those titles. Let's see here, Q&A. You guys tell me if you see it. Judah, import. I don't see it. Oh, here we go. It's right here. So in the lab, upper, boom. All right. And then this one, I can make it be in the lab as well. I can change the color of the text though. So let's say we want this text to be, we'll make it be light blue and no shadow. All right. And then I'm gonna right click on this, dynamic values, same idea, but we're going for the lower, in the lab lower. That shows up there, but I got to make it auto fit and shrink to fit. And I got to make sure when you do the color changes and all that stuff, you got to make sure there's some text there. And I didn't do that. And I'm gonna turn off the shadow. And there we go. All right. So we got some content there. Now this one, I'm gonna put in some more space for the date. Okay. So I'm gonna raise this up so that it's there. And then I'm gonna put another text box down here to put the date in really small. All right. So we'll right click and duplicate. And we're going to bring this one right down there, and we're going to make this super small. All right. And this will delete, and I'm going to right click in that space, and we're going to select dynamic values. And we're going to add in, what's today? So the month, boom. And then I will put a dash, just type a dash in there. And this is how we do it in where I'm from. So a month and then day, time, date. Yep, today's 19th. And then we'll do dash, and I'm gonna right click again. We're gonna select dynamic values, and we're gonna pick the year. So now we got that. All right. So I can go back to my show, and it looks like this. It still looks completely blank, but I've got to fix that. So I've got to put in some content there. So under functions, under in the lab upper, let's do that one first. I'm gonna call this one live stream with S. And then here we're gonna say use OBS and FreeShow. All right. Lock those in. And so now what should happen is, oh, you know what, you guys? I think I was editing the actual item. No, I wasn't. Okay. I was editing the template, I think. Let me make sure. If we go to templates, yep, there we go. So when I select that template now, you'll see that it shows up. I just refreshed everything. You'll see live streams, use OBS and FreeShow. You got the date there and all that good stuff. Now, I didn't customize my my font. A lot of people are really good at that. I'm not bad at it, but it's not a big deal to me, but I'll customize the font a little bit. Let's see. Let's see if we can find something that makes sense. This doesn't look bad. And I'll make it be a little bit bigger. Okay. And then let's see what that does. If we go back to show, hit refresh, didn't make a world of difference. Let me see. If I go here, if I go there we go. Okay. So now, doesn't look bad. Doesn't look bad. I would probably make it a little bit bigger. Let me see if I can make that bigger. Edit. Items. That's that one. Okay, so this one, I would have to make it be a little taller. So I'll do something like that. Give it some room to breathe. Now, if I go back to my show and select that to just kind of reset it and go there and refresh this. And now you'll see live streams a lot bigger. And then it says use your OBS and FreeShow with today's date, which is great. The cool thing is when I go over here, that's what's showing up in OBS. This is the kicker. Serge says, I will make this on my vlog. Hey, you got a vlog. That's what's up, my man. That's what's up. Or my friend. I think you were a guy. I see a picture there. It looks like a guy. So that's cool. And so we got live streams, use OBS, and FreeShow. All right. So now the way that this would work, generally speaking, is you can just keep this on and it's all in this particular FreeShow primary. I've just added the FreeShow primary. Like it's just a primary feed. But you can also make a podcast feed. This is what we talked about earlier, right? So I can literally make this one be my podcast feed. So I can say, okay, I want to do that same idea. I'm going to bring in FreeShow NDI. So I'm going to go NDI source. And that one is called FreeShow primary. So I'll say, okay. And I can right click on this and go to properties and make sure it's showing up. Let's see here. Right now it's saying there's nothing there. There we go. It pops in. There we go. It's coming in now. And then I want to add the video. So I'm going to go back, hit the plus sign down here in my sources, video capture device. And I'm just going to select my ATEM, which is where my video feed is coming from. And I'm going to make this supersized to fit like I did last time because my video is in a different aspect ratio. I shoot on my video in like 4:3, like old school TV is what I call it. Okay. And so that's there, but they're flip-flopped in the order. So the ATEM is on top. So the video feed is on top of the lower thirds. You want to drag that below. And so now you'll have your feed that looks just like what we just had earlier. Okay, so that's one way to do it. All right. Now, that's with a template, and it's hard to kind of manage that because free show is totally separate from the ATM and so forth and so on. So what you would do, or I would do, is I would bring in another element and I would bring it in my companion app. All right. And so what you can do with companion is you can tie this particular show that we just made. So you can make this show be a trigger or an action to show up when you go to this particular scene in OBS. All right. So let's put that together. So we're using not just OBS, not just free show, but now we're going to bring in companions. So I'm going to go into here, not here, to here, and I will go to my functions, and I'm going to go down to that in the lab lower. I'm going to say using OBS. I'm going to just take out use, and we'll say free show. We'll say slash companion. This is where things get interesting because so now it's really small in there, right? So I'm gonna I'm gonna see if I can edit that. I want to make that template a little bit bigger in terms of the that graphic text in there. And so right now it's there. It's not bad. It's just not a lot of space in there. I didn't give myself a lot of room with it. All right. So I'm gonna bring this out to be a little bit bigger in the time. All right. Let's see. Go back to items. Time. Let's bring that down just a bit. We can make that a little bit bigger. This one. Nope. This one. We can make it a little bit bigger. Boom. Now it probably won't make it much bigger, but I'll select that again. Things got a little bit bigger. All right. And so, yeah, so they're fitting in there a little bit bigger, which is fine. Okay. And let me make sure. So I refresh. Yeah, that's cool. OBS free show and companion. So we got that going, but we got to figure this out. So if I go back to my talking head, right now you see, let's see here. It brings this up, but I want to go to actually free show primary. Let's go to that one. All right. So this is my primary feed and we'll be using, I might use this in the future, right? So free show, it doesn't say in the lab, but I want to have something that says in the lab, which is kind of funny. So we'll do that later on. I got another idea for that. Okay. So for companion, what you would do is first things you need to go into here and you would have an option. You can make an action that switches to this particular show in free show. All right. So I'm going to go here. We'll go to actions and I'm just going to say new action. And I'm going to call this podcast. Not podcast. I wouldn't call this podcast. I would call this one in the lab overlay. All right. And then we're going to say choose action and we're going to do a show, start a show. And what's the name of this show? I think it's called podcast. What did I call this show? I think it's called In the Lab Test. Let's see. All right. I should know the name of this show and I don't. Yeah, it's called In the Lab Test. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to start this show called In the Lab Test. All right. Now, if I go up here, we'll go to companion. We'll say launch GUI. And if you've ever used like the companion app for your church meetings or anything like that, or for a Stream Deck, you would go launch the app and it'll look something like this. And I'm gonna go to the option that says buttons here on the left. I got all my connections ready. I've got free show. Let me go back. I got OBS connected. I've got free show connected. I even got a MIDI. I didn't connect my ATM. I could. I just haven't, right? Because let me see. I can turn it on, I think. Let's see if I turn it on there. There's my ATM. So now my ATM is connected as well. So I can control like certain inputs, camera feeds in here as well. I'm going to go to buttons. And I don't need this Spotify button. So I'm going to change these out. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to remove that. And we're going to make this say in the lab overlay. And we got it green right now. We'll make the background of it be something different. So we'll do like a different blue. Let's see, we'll do somewhere like that. All right, in the lab overlay, that's fine. This is all just customizing the way that button looks. You could even add a PNG to give it an image. That's what I did with these here, where they say live and a record button and the audio and microphones and all that stuff. Those are all just images that I selected from a PNG, and I just centered them up, and they just show up there. You can make them be at the top or the right or whatever it is. That's all that stuff is. It's a lot of stuff, but it's all pretty basic. You can do a top bar if you want to. If I say show, you'll see up here to show you the actual button numbers for that. I don't usually do that, so I just say follow default, which is none. Step progression, I don't use that at all. Never used it before. But this right here, Spotify controller, I'm gonna take that off. I don't need that. All right, so I'm gonna say delete. Now, what I do need though is I do want it to trigger that action I made, and I want it to go to a certain scene in OBS. Okay, so we're going to go here, and we're gonna go to Free Show. We're gonna look for actions. All right, run action by name. This is all I like to do. Okay, you can do a lot of other stuff. You can select a show and all that kind of stuff. That's cool. But I like to do it, run an action. I don't know why. It's just simpler to me. All right, and so my actions, I go to my functions, and I just made it. Look, what did I call it? In the lab overlay. All right, so I'm gonna right click on this. I'm gonna put it into my podcast tag just to keep it easy to see and find. Okay. So here we go. In the lab overlay. I got to know that title. It says it's a MIDI. What is that? I never used that before. It says play. What? I've never seen that before. Start show. Okay. But that, I've never done that. I don't know what that MIDI means. That's new. All right. But I can right click on this if I want to and say edit, and I can just copy it so I can get it exact. So I can just copy that. It's got start show in the lab test, which is perfect. When I go back in here, I can just paste in that name. All right, so I got that name there. So I wanted to do that, but I also wanted to go to the podcast OBS feed. And so you guys can't even see my screen. All right, sorry about that. So I wanted to go to this podcast screen here. And what I was doing was in this particular, bit focus companion, I went to connections. I made sure that ATEM, OBS, and Free Show were on. And then I went to my buttons and I selected a button. And in here in the lab, I had this, and I just made the background be blue. I typed in a new title, and then I went down here and I hit this little folder icon to add an action. And so I selected an action called run action by name, and then I'm gonna do another one here for OBS. And I just select that folder, select OBS, and now we're gonna select, let's do scene. I'm just do a sort for scene and internal OBS. Okay, so set program scene. There we go. Say done. And then it gives you a list of all your program scene options you've got. And I'm going to go down and I'm looking for the one that we called podcast. Boom. All right. So it does all that. Now I've got that button on my iPad here. And so I'm going to go back into OBS and I'm going to take off this Free Show primary. I'm going to take that off there. I'm just going to go to here. And let me edit this one as well because I want to go back to the way it was. Cancel that. Right click. Let's go to transform. We're going to say fit to screen. And it looks like that. But if I hold down my option key on a Mac and drag this in, no. Sorry. Free Show primary is fine. I want that to be there. But I want it to go to my talking head. So if I go to talking head, it's called Gary Headshot. Okay. So I'm gonna go here, but then I'm gonna hit the button that said in the lab in a second. So I'll say talking head here. And then when I hit in the lab, it does that. Okay. It automatically takes me into this new layout that we just made. All right. That's important. So now we got that cleared up. The next step is, what do we do to make this be even different, right? Make this even better. So for your podcast or for your live stream or something like that, you can always go to that in the lab. So if I go here, I made a button on here. So I got an in the lab button. I can just select that. So I say test. Watch what happens. I say test. It should trigger, and let's see what we got. And we're there. We're in the lab. Now what I need to do with that button is I need to make it show up like some is it feedback? Let me see here. I want it to do what these buttons do. So if I go to one of these buttons, you'll see here, let me see, feedback. You see I got this feedback, right? It shows some info, it changes color. So this one, I wanted to do the same thing. So I'm gonna go to feedbacks, and I'm gonna add a feedback, and I want it to change when it goes to a certain scene. All right, so profile active, scene in preview, scene in program. So if a scene is in program, I want it to change to be green. All right, so background color, I want it to be this, and then foreground color, we can make it be that. Okay, we can make it be, yeah, we'll keep it there. All right, so now if I were to tap that, it should change. Let's go back here. All right, so scene, oh, I didn't change the scene. So if the scene is set to podcast, oh, then it should do it. So now if I select this, you'll notice, well, you won't be able to notice it, but this button here changes to be green, just like how this one changed to green. All right, so that's what I want to be able to do. All right, but we got some other options here. We got some other setups that I want to make. So we made this one using a template, and we called it in the lab. But I downloaded some other backdrops with some other cool scene ideas and stuff like that. So let's try those out. If I go back down to pictures and I do in the lab, you'll see this one here and this one. These two go together. So I'm going to put these together as well, but I'm going to have to use OBS and FreeShow for this to work. So we're going to bring this into OBS as a background, and we're going to bring this into FreeShow as a background, and then we're going to have some layers, which is going to be pretty cool. All right, so now I'm going to go into let's go to OBS first, because we're going to bring this item as a background in OBS. All right, so this one we'll call podcast. We'll make this one be called podcast 2, and we'll say okay. And then we're going to add in a new scene, and we're going to make this scene be an actual image. So I'm going to bring in an image. This is going to be, I'm going to call it, I think it's blue, but I'm going to call it purple for now. Purple background. All right. We'll say okay. And I'm just going to browse my computer. I'm going to look for that purple background. And it's in pictures, in the lab. Yes, kind of purple. It depends. All right. So I'll say okay. And then we can right click on this, and we can transform it to fit to screen. Boom. So now it fits to the screen. Got my background. This is my in the lab. All right. Now, what I want to do is I want to put a video and a screenshot in there. It's going to be crazy. All right. So next thing I need to do is I need to go to FreeShow, and I want to make a template that has this particular setup for it. And we'll go to, and I could just do it as a show as well, you guys. I'm making them as templates because they could be useful. I just think about it, if I'm gonna do it, I would just make it into a template. It's just my mindset. You don't have to do that, but it just simplifies it in my mind at least. So I go here, I'm gonna call this one in the lab 2. We're gonna do media. and choose media. And I'm going to pick, I think it's this one. Yeah. All right. So I can select that and preview it. Perfect. And that comes in full size. That's exactly what I want. Okay. So now I've got that. That's done. Now I need to add it to a show. So I'm going to go to my shows. We're going to do new show. We'll say in the lab. We'll say screen. We'll put it in our live streams. That's cool. All right, so we got an in the lab screen. I can go to that show. Let's see. There's no slide selected in this show. New slide. And I'm in the edit page, so it looks kind of funky. All right. So now I can go back to my show and I'm gonna go to my templates and I'm gonna pick this one instead. All right. So now I got this particular template. All right. I like that template. Really cool. So when I select this, everything looks like that now. So this is what shows up over the top. It's completely transparent, which is exactly what I want. So now I'm going to go to OBS. And here we're going to create another option. And this option is going to be NDI source. And we're going to pick FreeShow primary. We'll say OK. And you'll notice that now it shows up right over the top just like I want it to. But on this side, I want to put in a screen. And on this side, I want to put in an actual video. And they're going to be sandwiched right in between these two layers. So I'm going to select this. And I'm going to pick, we could do, I got some scenes here. Let's see. I'm trying to think about the different scenes I've got. Because I might just do it as a scene. And I got this one called full share. That's split screen, split screen. What did I call it? Lower thirds. Windows computer, full sharing screen free show. So I'm gonna add this scene that's called full sharing screen free show for now. You could do a window capture if you wanted to. And that's what I did. I did a window capture, so I can do that again. I'll do that. Let's see, capture card, color, image, Mac OS audio, Mac OS screen. So I can select that and we will do, that one says third screen. I'm just gonna call this one my Acer screen. Say okay. And that is the correct screen. Perfect. And we'll say, okay. Now it's covering up everything and it's not even behind where it needs to be, right? So I need to bring this down to be here. And then I've still got it selected. I can drag this to fit inside of there. So I'm gonna drag this over here and make it fit in there. And then pull it up. And then I'm gonna drag this corner over here to try to make it fit in there. We're gonna see and pull it up. All right, so it kind of fits, kind of doesn't. I made that border really thick, but it's in there, right? And it's behind there, which is fine. I need to do the same thing on this side though for the actual the video of my head, right? So my video of me here, I'm gonna put that in. So I'm gonna select the same thing. I'm gonna hit the plus sign down here under source, and we're gonna select video capture device. That's our capture cards, okay? And I'll say ATEM. That's my where my camera is. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna bring it over here and I'm gonna put it behind this. So I'm gonna bring the FreeShow primary above it and you'll see that there. And I want, move that back. I wanna select my ATEM and I want to move it here. And I can actually lock this FreeShow primary. So I can lock that, and lock that. So all those don't need to move. None of those need to move again. And I want this to be just as tall as that. And this to be just as tall as that. And let's move this over to be something like that. All right. So right now I'm looking in the wrong direction. So I'm going to change that. So under this transform option, you can say flip horizontal. So I can flip that. And now it looks like I'm looking that way. All right. And so I'm going to hold down my option key to frame this in. And I can't see this side. So I'm gonna drag it over and hold down Option and bring it over just enough so I can see it. Let's pull it back to where I wanted it to be, somewhere like that. And then I'll make it hide behind there by holding Option down and just dragging it behind there. All right. And so now I've got a setup here, and it's called Podcast 2. Okay. It says in the lab, FreeShow in the lab. Really cool setup. And I'm just using regular OBS. I've never used Streamlabs OBS, I don't think. This is just OBS Studio. Is what it's called. Yeah, so OBS Studio. All right. Now, I need to go in and make an action. And then I'm going to bring that action into Companion, and I'm going to make it switch to Podcast 2 with this action. All right. So I'm going to go back into FreeShow, and I've got this show, and this show is called In the Lab 2. We'll call this In the Lab Screen is what I'm going to call this. Edit. Not edit. Right click and rename. In the Lab. No, we keep that say 2. That's fine. That's the template. But the show, I'm going to call it In the Lab Screen. Yeah, it's called In the Lab Screen. Perfect. So we're going to do a function. We're going to make an action in here in the podcast space. We're going to say In the Lab Screen. All right. And we're going to choose the action, and I'm going to start a show. And I wanted to start the In the Lab Screen show. And so that's done. And now I'm going to go back into Companion over here, and I'm going to delete this other Spotify. And I'm going to call this one In the Lab Screen. All right. I'm going to change the color. And that color was kind of like a purple something. So we'll bring it to look like that. So it's kind of like this. Yep. And then I want to make the text be yellow. I like yellow text. All right. So In the Lab Screen is there. But now I got to set it to do something. Right now it's set to do something with Spotify. I'm going to trash that, say delete. And I'm going to pick a press action. So when I tap this on my tablet, it's going to do something. So I wanted to hit the folder, and I wanted to run a free show action. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to select the run action by name. And I like to do what I did before. I'm going to go back in the free show. I'm just going to right click in the lab screen, right click on that and edit and copy this out. You could type it in there. You guys are a lot better at typing than I am, which is great. But I'm going to go slide back over, and I'm going to select paste. So it's going to run that. And when it runs that, I want it to open up an actual scene in OBS called Podcast 2. And so we're going to go over here, and we're going to call this we're going to add another action. So you can add actions in OBS, in Companion, and you can add actions in FreeShow. So I select this, and I don't want to see that. I want to do OBS, and I want to switch the program scene. What is it called? Set the program, I believe. I probably passed it. Set program scene. Here we go. So I can select that, and I'm going to pick this, and I'm looking for Podcast 2. Boom. All right. So that's done. But I want this to give me some feedback. I want it to change, and it automatically shows those, which is great because it already had that in there from before. So now when I select this, it does that, which is great, but it did not change that background. It's because I got it set to this overhead split. So the scene doesn't need to be overhead split. I always forget that. It needs to be Podcast 2. Boom. So now when I go to Podcast 2, you will see here that, but you will also see that my button is lit up. So now you can see me, and you can see that the button is lit up here in the Companion app. So we got two different outlines, two different ways to organize our content. And this is in the lab. So I've actually made some in the lab stuff here. You guys are seeing me scroll back and forth between different screens. You also can see my face, but I can change it out. So I can change the scene from there to there. And now you'll see it do that. It goes to this look right here, and I can switch it out, and it goes to this look here. And we're in the lab, which is really cool. All right. So that's something that I think you might like to use and could use for your setups, however you want to. Now, I do notice that my little icons here are kind of not in the right order. So if I go to podcast 2, they're covering up. So I would need to bring the screen, my Acer screen, on top of there. All right. So now they're behind it. But my Acer screen is locked. So I want to move that. I'm going to lock my video. And I'm just arrow to the right. Let's see if I select it here, will it move? Click it up here, move it over. You'll see it moving a little bit. And so now the screen is not going to be hindered at all. I can actually make it a little bit shorter. No, I can't actually. To keep that ratio, I guess I can make it bigger. All right. I'm just playing around with this real quick, you guys, just to adjust the way it looks, because it was over the top in the wrong way. All right. Oh, and then it covers up in the lab though. I don't want that either. So here's what I was doing. So if I say in the lab screen, you'll see here, see how it covers. Well, you can't see that. Well, you can see it a little bit, but it's covering up, right? So it's covering up the words in the lab when I do that. So what I could have done was not have those images, or break this out even more and bring in the lab in as a separate piece. So I can go back into here, into Canva. If I go back to Canva and scroll down, this stuff here needs to be separate. So I can select this and delete that. That's the white box. Select this one, delete that. That's that box. Select that, delete that. There's all kind of stuff in here. Delete that. There's something here. We don't need that. And there's something over here. I don't need that. And you just hover over, you'll see if there's anything else. There's something there. I don't need that. All right. Everything else is gone. And this is page 4. So if I say export out and I make it a PNG, transparent background, and I just want page 4, current page, and say done. And actually, let's do this. I'm going to name it. I'm going to call it in the lab title. All right. That's going to be how it exports out. So that's important. So I'll say share now, and I'm going to select current page, and we'll do transparent and download. Now, you're going to see why I did that in a second. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to add that particular image into my pictures folder from the downloads. I'll put it in there with everything else. And boom. All right. So now when I go back into OBS, I can go here. I'm in the podcast 2, which is where I want to be. And I can select this and I can select image. And I can bring in, let's call it lab title. Hit OK. And then I would browse. And I had it in my pictures, and here it is in the lab title. Select that and hit OK or open. And then I'm going to say OK. And I want to make it fit the screen. So I'm going to lock this off for the Acer screen. I don't need that to move, but I can right click on this, go to transform, and select fit to screen. And boom. Now we got in the lab covering up over the top at the top there. And so now when I go to in the lab screen button on my device, you'll see it shows up there, and then none of this other stuff is showing up on top of my screen. Okay. That's what we don't want. We don't want our screen covered up. All right, you guys. So that is some ideas that you can use FreeShow with OBS, with Companion as well, to make some cool stuff, right? So go out, do some cool stuff with this program. It is solid. It is really awesome to use, especially with all the other free programs that you can use connected to it, is what I've been doing today. And so I did Companion. I added 2 buttons, and one of them looks like this, and it gives me a different setup. And then the other one looks like this, which is a whole different setup. And we set up both of those today. And you can do this a number of different ways, but this is using a bunch of different programs. So this one here, I can make adjustments to what this says. It says live streams right now, but if I go into my program, into FreeShow, I can go in and I can easily change that to be something else. So instead of saying live streams on the fly, I can change that and I can make it say, um, something like that. All right. So now it says join us next week, next Monday. And that's something you can do as a podcast director slash editor, whatever you call yourself, videographer. You can have that there and it works seamlessly. And you can even bring this in. I could even put text in this space as well. On the screen, I can put text here or up here even. That is a variable from FreeShow as well, which is really cool. And I can put that on that show, on that template, and it'll all be seamless, all in that button setup that I made, to where now I just press one button and that stuff shows up automatically. All right. So I want you to try it out. Give me some feedback on it. What would you do different? Because this is just me in the lab playing around with different things, testing out some stuff and seeing how it works and how we want to make it work and all that good stuff. And so um, over here, this is hilarious to me. This is the podcast one. Oh, it automatically changes because it changes the show, right? The primary podcast. So over here, it looks like that. But when I switch to that, it automatically changes the layer, and this one changes as well, which is fine. It doesn't have any problems to me because it doesn't bother me at all. But you can customize that as well to change it to be a whole different output from FreeShow and all that kind of stuff. But this is a simpler way to me. So like I said, the question is, what would you do different, right? What would you do different to make this work even better for you in your setup, whether you're using FreeShow for business, using it for ministry, you're using it for personal use? How would you set this up for your settings and your needs? All right, you guys.